start recording right here.
All right,
It's
sounds
whatever. Like, oh, I see. It's flyers.
Little flyers.
Oh, well, whatever. Someone else wrote on it first.
You can use a couple of them.
Hello.
No one will know. Woo! All right. I'm getting old.
It's episode 11, right?
What's that?
12.
This is episode 12. Yes. And I am good until like 4:30, so we can do.
Oh wait, this is gonna be backwards, huh? Oh well. This is episode 12.
What did you write?
Episode 12.
Episode 12. Awesome, blossom, extra awesome. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. Chili, baby back ribs. Bobby yourself.
Hold on.
Nailed it.
Party.
So how much of the Super Bowl did you actually watch last
I
night?
actually watched the whole Super Bowl.
Me too, and I'm really sad that I did. Like, I watched everything.
I am also sad that I did.
Like, there was a time where we should have turned the channel, but nah, this is the Super Bowl. What'd you think of the commercials, by the way?
La la la.
I wasn't that impressed.
Wait, hold on. Can you hear me?
Oh, hold on. Sorry, I forgot we were doing prep.
Can you? No? Yes?
Yeah,
Hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear myself a little bit. kind
Hello.
of.
Okay. I'm just.
Yeah.
It
yeah,
just
yeah,
sounds
okay.
weirder than normal.
Yeah, it just it sounds different, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Anyway,
Yeah, whatever.
the commercials really didn't impress me. I mean,
Yeah, I
there
wasn't that
there
impressed.
was some good ones. There were some good ones.
But the good ones, like, relative, because like
Yeah,
if you put the
for
good
sure.
ones up against like the last 3 years, then you know they
There
would've been
there weren't
crappy
any
ones.
all time great commercials.
Although I really liked the '80s commercial, the Radio Shack, the perfect self-deprecation. Like, we really need to change. I mean, we're the store of the '80s, and then they had like Alf come in, and the pro wrestler Hulk Hogan.
I missed that.
Oh,
one.
you didn't see that one?
No,
oh
I missed that
man,
one.
like that was probably, I think it was voted like that was one of the best ones. Yeah, go back and just type in Radio Shack '80s in YouTube and watch. I thought that was pretty funny.
I hate to admit it, but I like the Kia commercial, the one with Morpheus.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah, Kia did well. I thought some of the car commercials were really weird.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't tell they were car commercials until you saw the car. I was like, I don't know what you're selling here, but probably not gonna buy that car. I don't know. I thought they were strange. Oh, they were funny. The Doritos one was very funny. It was like towards the beginning of the time travel one. The guy gets in the time machine, and there's a kid there, and he said, "Give me Doritos," and then kid runs off, and then the old man walks up, and he's like, "Oh my God, it's the future!" I thought that one was pretty funny. That was one of the only ones I remember too, because I didn't go back and watch any of them, but I think the good ones are the ones that like you remember afterwards.
La la la. Yeah, I guess I can hear.
Good. Yeah. I can hear me. I can hear you. I think we're good. I think we should be alright. I. Alright, so you do Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'll chime in. I really only have like one thing to say about the game, and then we'll do a nice little transition into the actual biggest game of the weekend. I love that you're wearing that jersey right now because that Duke-Syracuse game was.
And you know
was
what?
one for the ages.
Well, I'll save it, but
we're talking.
It
about
wasn't a foul. That dunk.
Oh, I mean,
Such a clean dunk. It was such a clean dunk. Or clean block.
Yeah, we're definitely talking about that. So we'll do that, and then I wrote up some notes about NBA midseason. We should after we do Duke Syracuse, we'll talk for like a couple minutes just about the new rankings that came out.
Yeah.
I'm shocked Arizona's still number 2, but we'll do that, and then I'll go right into NBA.
That does say something about the Pac-12.
Does it?
I think it does. I mean, it should.
I think it just says more about the voters. Like, really, you think Arizona's that good?
Take
still?
it away from them.
I don't know. We'll talk about it. But yeah, we'll do what was it? Super Bowl 48? Is that what it was?
Super Bowl
I don't know Roman
48.
numerals.
Yeah, it's 48.
I'm just excited for Super Bowl 50 because it's going to be like, hey, I know that Roman numeral.
I'm excited for Super Bowl 49. Hopefully the 49ers can win. Anyway.
I really hope that happens. I didn't put that together at all. I really hope that happens now. That'll be really funny.
Hey, welcome back to the basement with Sean and the Heckler. I am DK David Kim. They call me the Heckler, and joining me, as always, in the basement on a Monday is Sean Steimel. How you doing, Sean?
Doing good. I'm really glad this is the first thing I have to do on the Monday after the Super Bowl, so I can sleep in like I know most people didn't get to. So I really like that our work day on Monday starts at 3:00.
Well, I mean, I sort of worked earlier today, but it's I don't consider it hard work where I work, so
Yeah, but still, it's getting up. Like I won't rub it in that I slept until 11 o'clock today.
Oh man, I'm so jealous. I definitely woke up at 9.
That's not too bad.
But let's see here. Anyway, you could be us. Wow.
It's Monday.
Let's try that again. I was gonna say, hearing our voices usually means it's Monday, and it is Monday. The Monday after the Super Bowl. And if you watch the Super Bowl, it really wasn't that super. It was just kind of another football game because Seattle Seahawks basically dominated the Broncos. And I don't know about you, Sean, but when I saw the first snap for the Broncos go over Peyton's head into the end zone, and then they recovered it for the safety for the Seahawks, my brain kind of went, this game's kind of starting off in a very Seattle kind of way.
Yeah.
And then the quick touchdown to make it 8-0, and then the turnover pick six, or actually 2 field goals first.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And then the turnover pick 6. It almost felt like I've seen this before. At pretty much the last couple of weeks, every Seahawks win, other than maybe the Niner game, the NFC Championship game, kind of followed this kind of script.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, they're absolutely led by their defense. I mean, when your defense plays that well, your offense doesn't need to do that much. That first play of the game was crazy. I mean, I looked at my dad and was like, "What?
Yeah, what just happened, right?
What the hell? Like, seriously, the first play is a safety." I thought it was a lot of 12th man noise. I thought that place was just electric. And you know how Peyton is when he's in Denver. He tells the fans to quiet down. I mean, he doesn't like noise on offense.
Yeah, that's true.
And that got to him. It got to the center, and the cadence was thrown off. I think Tim Hasselbeck brought up a great point. You don't need a cadence on the first play of the Super Bowl. You've been practicing for 2 weeks. You should know your first play out of the gate. But that did not start off well. But I thought 2 field goals when they got the turnovers, when Seattle was playing so well and they got good field position, they ended up with 2 field goals. I actually tweeted this. You can't kick field goals to beat Peyton Manning.
That's true.
It's almost like the Niners' problems that they have sometimes early in games. They get turnovers. There was the first play of the Seattle game. Alden Smith made that fumble sack and recovery. What they ended up doing? They kicked a field goal.
That broke my heart, that game.
And I was worried after that. I was like, okay, they got a great defensive play, but they turned it into 3 points instead of 7. I was worried at that point for Seattle. And then they did it a second time. I'm like, okay, then you know what? They've just had 3 great defense possessions. They've had 3 offense possessions, and they only have 1 score. Denver's still in this game. That was the moment where I said, okay, then this is over. Seattle got that pick 6, I believe. That's when that happened. And I said, I looked at my dad. I said, okay, all right. Seattle's a better team. They're playing better right now. This defense, I mean, it's not even 11 people on defense. They have like 16 or 17 guys that would start on any defense.
And you know what though? I feel like this is the first time all season where the injury of the All-Pro center at the beginning of the year for the Broncos, it really kind of reared its ugly head because was it Manny Ramirez? Yes, folks.
Yeah.
The center's name is Manny Ramirez. I'm not kidding. He couldn't call the protections correctly because he didn't know where it was coming from. And I'm not saying that. I think was it Ryan Clady?
Yeah, Ryan Clady's the left tackle.
And I'm not saying that Ryan Clady or whoever they moved from center. You know what I mean? Like
I forget who it was.
I'm not saying that they would have also been able to call all the protections the whole game, but I don't think he would have snapped the ball over Peyton's head in the first play, and he probably would have called a lot more pickups than Manny Ramirez did.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking Manny Ramirez. He played his butt off all season, and he pretty much had an all-pro kind of year. And it's kind of, I don't want to pile on him because I'm sure that there are other media members, in ESPN, CBS, all those guys are probably pointing out the fact that like Manny Ramirez got put in a situation and basically he looked like deer in headlights. But I mean, it also does go show you how smart that secondary and the defense really, really is. Like they are as smart, if not smarter, than Peyton. Because Richard
Yes.
Sherman is quoted as saying, had he done some double moves or like went out of the norm, we would have been exposed for jumping routes and like recognizing certain things. But he stayed true to form, and kudos to the defense, the Seahawks, for having that much study time and knowing Manning's tendencies.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point with Manny Ramirez. Jeff Saturday, it never gets enough credit for the work he did with Peyton. Peyton Manning's the quarterback, but not the quarterback of the offensive line. The center has to be the quarterback of the offensive line, especially when you're playing with Peyton Manning. And I thought Manny Ramirez did a terrific job the entire year. He was kind of a fill-in position, not necessarily the go-to center there. But like you said, I think he could be an all-pro guy probably next year. Losing Ryan Clady was huge. I mean, that's the blindside guy for Peyton. And the guys filled in great. They had Orlando Franklin on the right side, and he played really well. It was a good offensive line for Denver. That's part of the reason why Peyton Manning wanted to come to Denver, is because he saw the promise of the offensive line. But I don't care who you have. I don't care if you have 6 offensive linemen on the field. That Seattle defense, that defensive front, they're going to get by you.
Oh, yeah.
They're fast. They're strong.
For sure.
They're quick.
And I'm sure it didn't help that the Broncos receivers, I mean, aside from maybe Demaryius Thomas, they just couldn't get free.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it was matchup hell all over the field. And when you take away time from Peyton Manning, like the defensive line did, things aren't going to work. I mean, Peyton needs time in the pocket. He needs his receivers to get off the coverage and find the open spots. Welker's the best at finding little cushions inside zone defense and getting through man coverage. He didn't have the time. And you know what? That's really no one's fault on Denver. That's just how good Seattle's defense is. They take away time. They have the ability to play you straight up man-to-man with those big corners and the fast safeties like Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas. They have the ability to do that while also rushing the passer. Not a lot of defenses can do that. Most defenses have to either pick one, okay, we're going to play coverage on this one and maybe have a 3-man rush, or if they're lucky, a 4-man rush. Seattle can attack you both ways in the same play and really confuse you and really take time away. And I think that was the testament of the game, because you look at the numbers. Peyton Manning set a record for the Super Bowl for most completions.
He did.
Demaryius Thomas set a record for most receptions.
He did.
Numbers-wise, they didn't have a bad game.
No,
numbers don't matter.
They didn't, but I mean, I saw the stat yesterday. I was watching the game. The Seahawks were the first team in Super Bowl history to basically score every which way.
Yep.
Safety,
they really did.
Kick return, special teams, safety, a rushing touchdown, a passing touchdown, defensive touchdown.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And as a Niner fan, at some point in the game, I was like, okay, at this point, I know they're going to win. So that's kind of lost for me, whatever. Yeah. Now I'm just hoping for a couple of records for the Niners historically to stay intact. I'm like, okay, Denver, you need to score so that the margin of victory is not beating 45, in which the Niners and the Niners that beat the Broncos like that in Super Bowl 24. Also, I didn't want them to score more points than the 55 the Niners threw up in Super Bowl 24, because that would have broke both records. Like, it's just insane,
It was a crazy performance, and like you said, every facet they were better.
Yeah.
I mean, they were better. They were faster. They were stronger. I think they were more prepared. It didn't look like Denver was very well prepared for that defense, and it's tough to prepare for that defense.
For
sure. Their offensive game plan looked a little shaky.
And it's rough. Amazing that they thumped them 43-8. And I mean, if you look at that score, right?
Yeah.
And then forget that score. If you just looked at the box score first,
yeah.
and you saw Marshawn Lynch had 66 yards, 1 touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
The first thought that you would come to is, oh, Denver must have maybe won the game.
Yeah, Denver must have
won. Or it was really close, and somehow Seattle pulled it out at the end. No. They, whooped on them.
Yeah.
And they whooped on them the way Seattle's been whooping on everybody all year.
Yeah. Well,
defense, special teams, a couple of Hauschka field goals.
Yeah,
Russell running around, making some, some plays out of nowhere, flicking it down the field. Jermaine Kearse, did you see the double spin move?
That was amazing. That was really good.
Forget one spin move, guys.
Yeah.
He gave you 2 spin moves.
Against 4 or 5 defenders. That was a really cool touchdown.
That's a straight up Madden play.
Yeah,
That's like when your buddy catches it in the middle and you're like, I got you. He hits A or whatever and he spins and you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then you go to, I got you again. You're like, nope, I know this. And it's like some kind of glitch in the game or if you spin right at the right time,
Yeah. It was cool. This was my main takeaway from the game. I mean, you just said the box score. You look at it and it doesn't look like a 43-8 game. you watch the game and it was brutal. It had nothing to do with the box score. This is my main takeaway. For the last 2 or 3 years, I've been seriously worried about football and where it's headed. And as much as the concussion problem is prevalent, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking about Drew Brees. I'm talking about Matthew Stafford. I'm talking about Peyton. I'm talking about Tom Brady. I'm talking about Tony Romo. Breaking records. And records that really just shouldn't have been broken.
Yeah.
Just the amount of passing yards, the amount of completions, the amount of attempts. I think Stafford had like 68 attempts in a single game. Unheard of.
Did you
numbers.
say 68?
I don't think that's hyperbole. It was something in the 60s. And in one game.
I think I remember that.
It was insane. But the way these quarterbacks have started playing and the way the league has started playing, I was seriously worried for defenses. And that defenses were going to go out of style. And that guys weren't going to want to play defense anymore. And you got high school kids and college kids not wanting to play DB. They want to play wide receiver or running back. I was seriously worried about the future of football. And the last couple of years have been rough.
And then all of a sudden the NFC West emerges.
Exactly. Everything that has led up to the NFC Championship game this year, that had led up to it, taught you, okay, this is going to be an offensive game. Even with the 2 best defenses in the NFL, this is going to turn into an offensive game. Just because the rules and the way the game is played and the way the quarterbacks play, that's just how the game's going to turn out to be. And I think that game kind of turned the tide. It was a defensive slugfest.
Yeah.
Guys going at it, defenses flying across the field. And I think the Super Bowl absolutely solidified it. I don't care what anyone tries to tell me. I've been watching football for long enough. The Denver Broncos are one of the top 3 offenses in the history of the NFL. And
Agreed.
The Seattle Seahawks made them look like crap. They made them look like they didn't know how to play football.
And I know cliches are called cliches because, it's easy. Just, throw them around, whatever. But, I mean, when you say defense wins championships...
It does.
Really, it does. Like, those... Like, as a Niner fan, those Niner teams that won those 4 Super Bowls in the 80s and 90s... Everyone remembers, like, Joe Montana, John Taylor, Brent Jones, and Jerry Rice, Roger Craig, and, Freddie Solomon, all those guys, and Dwight Clark. But guys, those teams were anchored by top 5 defenses. Ronnie Lott, Jim Burt, Matt Millen, Deion Sanders in the 90s when he came as a free agent on that whole, like, mega squad. You had, Hacksaw Reynolds in the 80s, for the 84 Niners.
Just name dropping.
I
love it.
It's just people forget those stout, silent, hard-hitting defenses. And this day and age, the only reason we know about the 2 defenses that we just talked about, Niners and the Seahawks, is because, well, those 2 teams kind of don't like each other. And so it's almost like high theater when it comes to those teams. So it's like the defenses are always on center stage.
Yeah, and I also kind of thought about this issue right around that 2 or 3 years ago mark. There was an NBC Sunday night football game, and it was the Ravens and the Steelers.
Ooh.
Now, before there was the NFC West, there was the AFC.
Yeah, black and blue division.
And those 2 defenses, when Ray Lewis was in his prime, when James Harrison was there, Polamalu wasn't injured, Ryan Clark hard-hitting, James Ferrier, Larry Foote, Brett Kiesel. Defenses.
I feel like I'm getting a concussion just thinking about that.
Just thinking about those hard hitters. I watched that game, and this is when Chris Collinsworth was doing the game. He kind of kept bringing it up that, this may not be the game that America wants to watch. They want to watch the offensive explosion. They'd probably like to see Drew Brees against Peyton Manning.
I think I remember him saying something like that.
He
in that game.
Brought it up a couple of times too, and I kept thinking to myself, God, he's right.
Yeah.
Even I'm sitting here, and I kind of want the offense to do something right now. I'm not appreciating the speed and the strength of this defense.
It's like that in every sport. No one wants to watch a Wisconsin-Michigan State Big Ten game.
No.
They'd rather see a Conference USA game where it's like in the hundreds.
Yeah.
But honestly, if I had to choose, I probably would choose Wisconsin-Michigan State 99 out of 100 times versus everyone except for maybe ACC.
Absolutely. No, and that's a perfect parallel, is that there are some teams, some matchups we just don't appreciate as much as we should. And I think we're back. I think in the NFL scope, I think we're back. And
we are definitely back.
I have no rooting interest in the Niners and the Seahawks. I don't dislike them. I don't like them. You know what? Thank God for the Seattle Seahawks. Thank God for the San Francisco 49ers. Thank you for putting together these defenses and proving that you can still play defense in the NFL and win big.
Yeah.
Going up against an offense like the Denver Broncos. Because I guarantee if the San Francisco 49ers defense played against the Denver Broncos, it would be a lot the same. I don't know if it would be the same score, but the Niners would give them fits just like the Seahawks
I would like to
fits.
think that the Niners would have won that game. Just looking at the way the Seattle Seahawks played.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's just pretty much how the Niners would have attacked that defense.
Yeah,
or
if they would have followed the same
offense.
blueprint. If they would have followed the same game plan, the same blueprint, then I think they could have done it. My entire point, and this was just my one major takeaway, defense is back. It's back in football, and everyone says you look at the Super Bowl winner of the previous year and you're trying to copycat it, and I think that's going to happen. No one can replicate what Seattle did. No one can replicate what San Francisco did on defense. But I think the teams are going to pay a lot more attention to defense rather than offense, because as much as the rules are turned to the offense now and to quarterback play, to not touching the quarterback, defenses are again going to be very prevalent.
Yeah.
And it starts in the NFC West.
And I think what's going to happen now is in the 3rd to 5th round, or like 3rd to 6th round, or wherever the last round of the NFL drafts, instead of going for the 4th running back, that's a project.
Yeah, or the freakish receiver.
Or the freakish receiver that only has 1 year of college experience, but he
Exactly.
happens to be, that one guy from, Omaha somewhere that, sorry, that's really weird. I said Omaha. Bateman. Anyway, but we're going to start seeing more of the solid senior defensive ends, defensive backs, linebackers from the smaller schools or the not so top tier big name schools in the big conferences get taken in those 3rd, 4th, 5th round matchups. So you could have a Maxwell for yourself or Cooper. Is it Cooper?
Which side? Seattle's defense?
Seattle's defense. Shoot.
There's so many guys. Like I said, they have 16 guys who can start on any of their defense. No, they have size everywhere.
Bobby Wagner. Get yourself your own Bobby Wagner.
He's awesome.
Or your own Chancellor. You draft your own your own Richard Sherman. So I mean, I just think instead of taking the projects in those later rounds now, the GMs are going to be more identifying upperclassmen that have been in a system kind of run similar to what they want to run, so they can just plug them in.
Yeah, and I think this kind of goes to your point. You look at a guy like Luke Kuechly,
who won Defensive Player of the Year, by the way.
How was he not a top 5 pick in the NFL? How did people not see that guy's game would translate into the NFL? I think we've just reached a point. That game last night, I think, is really going to teach GMs, okay, let's get the defensive studs and pile them on one team and worry about offense later. I think defense is going to start it.
Exactly.
And especially for the teams who already have good offenses. Like, you look at a team like the Cincinnati Bengals, they have offensive weapons. Their defense is considered really good, but they got banged up this year.
Yeah.
If they keep adding to that defense, I think they could get there. They could be somewhat comparable to a Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look at how the Saints transformed.
Exactly.
And
that was my next team. God, we work well together. The Saints are the next team. You add a couple more pieces to that already vaunted defense. You don't have to worry about the offense. Drew Brees has his weapons.
Exactly. And speaking of Luke Kuechly, I mean, you stay in that same division. You got the Carolina Panthers.
Absolutely.
And now the Falcons kind of look at themselves in the mirror and they say, you know what? We drafted all this offense, Julio Jones, and all this and all this and this. Once Julio Jones got hurt, you get to look yourself in the mirror and see who you really are.
Yeah.
They were a team with a bad defense.
Yes, they were. Their defense was
porous. Sorry, Falcon fans.
I'm with you.
I love you, Joey, but you agree with me. Joey Kistler out there.
Yes. No, and I think all those teams that you just mentioned, other than
and the Falcons were scary offense.
Oh, absolutely. I think this was my other takeaway from the game. It's a lot more minor, but I think the NFC is a lot better than the AFC. And I think the gap is a lot bigger than we like to let on.
And that's why it kind of kills me last year that the Niners kept so short.
Yeah. Because
Baltimore definitely, congratulations for last year, but you just give the ball to Frank Gore 4 times and you don't win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that's what.
That can't be the game plan.
Never mind.
Coach's decision.
This year, not that.
I think the NFC's better than the AFC.
I agree.
Probably not in that middle area because there's a lot more middle teams in the AFC, like like a Tennessee Titans or even throw in the Miami Dolphins
Yeah.
or even Buffalo. Hell,
Even Buffalo,
throw in
yeah.
that team. I think there's a lot more middle feeders in the AFC.
Yeah,
But
there's a
even-
lot less like dregs in
Yeah,
the
exactly.
AFC.
Hell, look at the AFC North. I mean, that
Yeah.
pretty much the entire division is good.
I mean, even the Raiders have like potential
yeah, that's
to.
where I'll stop you then. No. Yeah, NFC's better than the Raiders. No, I really think that game that it truly showed us that defense is back.
We
defense
love you,
is
Raider
prevalent.
fans.
We
We love
do love Raider fans. Defense is back. It's very prevalent, and I think the NFC is better than the AFC,
Yeah.
which should be music to Peyton Manning's ear because I actually tweeted this I think during the third quarter that if that was the last time we saw Peyton Manning, it's a damn shame because of how good he is.
If he's even close to being okay to come back, he's gonna be like, okay.
But that's the thing. I worry about that physical he has to take because if
Yeah.
the physical shows anything wrong, I think
Any
gonna second
degeneration,
guess it.
he's quoted saying any degeneration,
Yeah,
and he's gonna retire.
I worry about that because I now at this point I really hope that doesn't happen and that he has the option to come back and I hope he does come back.
At least one more year.
Yeah, because I don't want Peyton Manning to end on that game. He had such a terrific season for it to end like that.
like that. Win or lose, he deserved to have a shootout type of game
He did.
where he performed and showcased, what talents he has for the nation and how explosive that offense is. And I feel like Seattle. I mean, after watching them play yesterday, in my mind, I have no doubt they could have kept up with a shootout like that. I mean, after
Yeah. No,
after
they should've.
seeing that, I mean,
We were robbed of a great football
We were.
game. We were
We
robbed
were.
of it by an absolutely monstrous defensive effort, some miscues on offense.
and you know
It
what?
was
We
bad.
will never know what would have happened if Manny Ramirez didn't hike the ball. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it was a perfect hike,
yeah.
what would have happened?
It was-
I mean,
it was a
maybe
series of events, though.
maybe the same results would have happened at the end. Maybe they would put in a blowout Seattle. Doesn't matter what would happen.
Yeah.
And I know you can't go back and change things like that. That's like, oh, time machine and whatever. But
Yeah.
it begs to think about, did that one play so early, the first couple of seconds, was that the stamp? Like,
Yeah.
it almost feels like it.
It's tough for me to say
It
that.
almost felt like it.
But
Even
watching
when
the game, that's what it felt like.
even when they were getting those field goals to only go up 8-0, it seemed like way more than 8-0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just the
But it
air
still
was.
nothing.
No, I know, and I was just in my mind going, Peyton Manning can just fix all this with one drive right
Yeah,
here,
with one good
with just
drive.
one good drive.
Yep. No, and I'm with you. I don't think the game was over after the safety. Like I said, I think-
Probably after the Smith touchdown.
yeah, I thought the pick six was the dagger.
Malcolm Smith.
But yeah, I don't know. I really have I have no worries for Denver getting back to at least the AFC Championship game next year because I think the AFC's
So
not that good.
do you think Peyton's coming back? I mean,
that's the only stipulation. If Peyton Manning comes
and
back, then
and
yeah,
if he
they're
doesn't
good.
come back, looking at the Denver Broncos roster as it is, right? Just remove Peyton Manning
Brock Osweiler.
and put in Brock Osweiler. Doesn't that seem like an 8-8 team?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If not 7-9?
Yeah, that's Peyton Manning's war.
Like I know exactly, right? Like that's
On his baseball
insane.
season. It is.
5 extra wins
Yeah.
in my mind
You know what?
with Peyton Manning.
Perfect example of that. You take Aaron Rodgers off the Green Bay Packers. What are they?
A Matt Flynn led one and whatever team that barely made the playoffs.
You put Aaron Rodgers on that team, they're playoffs.
You make the playoffs.
I think it's a lot of the same thing with Peyton Manning. You take Peyton Manning off the Denver Broncos, they're not that good. You put Peyton Manning on the Broncos, they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I feel like the Packers have one advantage over the Broncos.
It's a better defense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when healthy,
Clay Matthews.
they have a stalwart defense.
Yeah.
And if Eddie Lacy is a real deal,
He is.
they have a better running game. No offense to the three-headed monster in Denver, but
Eddie
if
Lacy's
you
better
can
than
rely on one guy to get you 1,300 yards and like 10 touchdowns,
Mhm.
that's ideally what you want.
Guess what conference the Packers play in?
The NFC.
I think the NFC
NFC. Okay, no, you know what? You're right. Even teams like the Bears, I feel like would dominate the AFC. Maybe not New England's division, but
See, the word dominate gets us into trouble. I don't think they dominate, but I think the Bears would be a playoff team in the AFC.
sorry, when I say dominate, I mean like a top 3 team.
Yeah, okay. I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that in the AFC.
My bad.
I just think the NFC's better.
Yeah, you know
I
what?
do.
The more I think about it, the more I agree with you, and I totally agree with you from the beginning too.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And what you just said about the Packers defense, this also has to be mentioned. It wasn't mentioned once, and you know we both call games for Free Studios. We're commentators. We're play-by-play guys.
Yep.
I can't stand Joe Buck. I can't stand him. I never have.
And you know what?
Can't
Unfortunately
stand
for America, he calls two of the most popular sports in America
Yep. And
on the channel that gets two of the biggest championship series or game in America.
It's a shame. And
Fox.
there's a Funny or Die spot where Joe Buck was walking around Manhattan, and a bunch of New York fans were giving him a bit of crap because he's so totally biased towards hating New York, and New Yorkers dislike him.
He's a very
so much.
Midwestern-minded guy.
Yeah, for our YouTube people, I'm wearing a Yankee hat right now. We don't like Joe Buck at all. New Yorkers hate Joe Buck. And I actually didn't think he did a terrible job. We've been in situations like that where it's a bad game, it's a blowout, and it's the second quarter, and you have another half to go, and you have to keep fans interested. It's not an easy job. I thought Aikman did pretty well, too. That's not an easy job. But again, I don't like Joe Buck, but this is the one thing he didn't really mention. He didn't really have time to mention. I mean, it was such a crazy game.
Yeah.
But Denver's defense was banged up, too. Von Miller was Defensive Player of the Year not long ago.
That's true.
Their best defensive back,
true.
Chris Harris, didn't play. I mean, they had a banged-up defense.
They did. And the thing is,
Elvis
you
Dumerville.
take away the kickoff return for a touchdown by Percy Harvin.
Mhm.
We'll get to him later, but jeez. You take away the 2 points for the safety, and then you take away 7 points for the pick six. That's 16 points, right?
Yeah.
At that point, the game is 27-8 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it sounds like a reasonable score, almost. You know, like, oh, you know, things didn't go your way, this, that, and the other. But, I don't know, I don't know. It was just such a thorough beating that I don't really feel like if those guys were there, it would have made that much of a difference.
It wouldn't have.
Because there were so many points scored independent of them doing what they do.
On that night, last night, the Seattle Seahawks were the better team, hands down.
Oh,
and
yeah.
there was really nothing Denver could do about it. I'm sure if they played a couple more times, Denver would have a day like that, and they'd play really well. But last night, it was Seattle's night. They won the prize, and I really, really, for a while, thought it was going to be a shutout. I'm glad they didn't put up the touchdown. I thought they were going to shut them out.
I really didn't want them to shut him out.
Me neither.
It's in my mind as a Niner fan, it's worse. It's bad enough that someone from my division is going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I can kudos with the best of them. I mean, if you saw me on Facebook, I basically posted one thing at during Super Bowl. And it was
Congrats, Seattle
a congratulations note to Seattle Seahawks fans in which I said, hey,
see you next year.
love it, but don't take it for granted because
Yeah.
we're coming for you next year.
And you're exactly right, and that's where it should be taken. The Niners-Seahawks rivalry is so prevalent in the NFL
But
today.
sorry. Getting back to the main point on that though,
Yeah.
it was hard enough to see them win.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want them to win and be the first team ever to shut out a team in the Super Bowl.
You wouldn't have heard the end.
Never. The Niners could have won 2 more in a row after this. The next 2, 49-50. And all you would hear from Seahawks fans probably in my mind is, well, whatever. We're the first team to shut anyone out of the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And then what can I say to that? Nothing.
Nothing.
Thank God they scored 8 points.
Just to put a capper on that to dig more into Niners fans. How many Super Bowls have the Niners won in the last 6 years? Quick answer. It's a real quick answer. Say it. Say it.
0.
How many Super Bowls have the New York Giants won in the last 6 years?
2.
There you go. It was a crappy Super Bowl, but congrats to Seattle. I agree with you. I think the Niners are going to be hunting them down next year. It's going to be fun to watch. But as for right now, the Pete Carroll-led Seattle Seahawks. We both.
And you know
they're Super Bowl champs.
what's funny is, like, my friends that know me know that, like, you know, I'm a Niner fan and, like, all the other things. But there's some people that only know me for the NFL, ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, they only associate me with Niner fandom. And so, like, they understood why I hated the Seahawks, but they just kind of didn't understand why I had such disdain for just Pete Carroll himself.
So they don't know you're a Notre Dame fan?
Yeah, I was going to say. And then one day I told one of them, well, I'm a Notre Dame fan. And they're like, oh.
I'll never forgive him for the bush push.
Ever. Right?
Ever.
Because that's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry. Oh my God. I almost got really.
We don't like
Sean,
Pete Carroll.
you almost got me super angry right now.
We don't like Pete Carroll.
I almost threw things just now. Maybe not. But I was pretty angry. But Pete Carroll, speaking of him though, he joins a very, very exclusive club.
3 people, right?
Only 3 people.
I don't know the other.
Yeah, no, it's only 3 people.
Okay.
It's Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer.
I've heard of both of them.
Okay. Unfortunately, 2 of them were Cowboy coaches.
Yeah.
But if anyone out there in podcast land is not sure what we're talking about, Pete Carroll joins an exclusive fraternity of coaches that have won a national title and a Super Bowl. Now, if you think about that, that's
College
pretty.
and NFL.
That's college NFL. That's actually a pretty amazing feat, because the old adage or cliche is, if you're a college coach, you can't really coach the pros. It's a different game. And to that, a lot of college coaches try, and not many of them succeed. For every Dennis Green and Jimmy Johnson, there's a Dennis Erickson. Or a Nick Saban.
Yeah, you also got to throw Nick Saban in this
And
contract.
that's funny to say, because Nick Saban now is recognized as like genius of all geniuses in the college world.
Yeah, he's a vet.
And at LSU and all that, and Michigan State. But if you remember, he fell on his face in Miami. Bobby Petrino fell on his face in Atlanta. It's just, it doesn't work sometimes. Not everyone's Jim Harbaugh and Pete Carroll, Dennis Green.
Those 2 can't be put in the same discussion. Pete Carroll has the Super Bowl.
Oh, ouch.
Sorry, had to.
No, you know what? Agreed. I cannot argue with that.
Nailed it.
He nailed it. He did.
Yes.
Damn you. But staying on the Seahawks for a second longer.
Yeah.
Percy Harvin's performance in the Super Bowl. If Malcolm Smith does not have that pick 6, Percy Harvin's the MVP, right?
You know what? I thought Percy Harvin was the MVP anyway. Honestly.
Because, here's the thing. He only had 1 catch for 5 yards. But he had 45 yards rushing.
The rushing.
And where is it? And a kick. And he had 1 kickoff return. Yeah. 1. For 87 yards. And a touchdown.
Yeah.
I
thought he was MVP. You know what? I thought Jacoby Jones was MVP last year's Super Bowl too. I didn't.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly,
Jacoby Jones was MVP.
Honestly, last year you can say all you want, what do you want, but why didn't you run it? Why didn't you get flagged? Whatever. But if they don't give up that touchdown, there's no.
I thought Jacoby Jones was the MVP. I thought Percy Harvin was the MVP. I didn't think they could single out anyone on that defense.
Yeah, exactly. If you're gonna do an MVP for the defense, it has to be a team MVP.
Seattle MVP defense. I thought that's what it should be.
You know what? They should have done that.
Yeah.
It should have been. It should have been the Super Bowl first. And they should have awarded it to the defense, and the person that should have gone up there to get the defensive MVP or the MVP award.
D coordinator.
High five.
We're a team.
Get out of my brain.
Okay.
Get out of my brain.
We're a team.
We are a team.
I don't even know the guy's name though. Is it Schneider?
Schneider's
the GM.
I don't even know.
But
that's how good he is, right?
Gus Bradley should get up and.
I was like, that's how good he is, right? We don't even know his name, or even not even sure of his name.
No, I'm with you. It should have been a team MVP.
And if you don't give it to the team, you give it to Percy Harvin.
I'm with it. And I thought, you know what? I thought Curse had a hell of a game. I thought Russell Wilson had a hell of a game.
Yeah,
It wasn't MVP worthy. I thought Doug Baldwin played really well. I mean, there are a lot of guys who played really well.
Yeah.
I mean, MVP could have gone anywhere. Malcolm Smith, brother of former Giants receiver Steve Smith. I thought that was pretty cool. Malcolm Smith also went to USC.
I did not.
USC connection with Pete Carroll. I know. I hate USC. $$C. Yeah. All right. You know what? Congratulations, Seahawks. I'm tired of talking about it.
Congratulations.
Well done. Whatever.
And the attendance 82,000 to 529. That's a pretty good attendance for the Super Bowl.
Did you see the stat? It was hotter at MetLife Stadium than it was in both Denver. And
yeah, I saw that. I laughed.
Meteorology, pseudoscience.
So to tie a bow on the Super Bowl, we're gonna go a little non-football here.
Okay.
How'd you like the halftime show?
I've always been a very big Bruno Mars fan.
I'm okay with Bruno Mars. Yeah. The real question I have though, since it sounds like you enjoyed the Bruno Mars part of it, I'm not gonna even ask that.
Red Hot Chili Peppers on the stage with him?
Not even that.
Okay. Because I had that.
Does it say more about how famous Bruno Mars is, or how far the Chili Peppers have fallen when they are a B act in the Super Bowl halftime show?
You can ask both those questions, but I think the Red Hot Chili Peppers, were so prevalent for so long.
No, for sure.
I don't think they have a problem.
They're legends.
B act.
They're legends. They don't care where they play.
For the Super Bowl halftime show, they don't care about anything.
But I was watching it at where I work, and the person sitting next to me, she looks up and goes, "Why aren't they wearing clothes?" And literally, me and like 4 or 5 other people said what you just said. We turned to her and said, "It's the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's just what they do. It's just what they do."
They're from LA. They don't care.
And I think someone's like, and they're sober, and like, so like it must not been, that that's just how they are,
No,
I mean, Flea,
I'm a
you know
huge
what?
Bruno Mars fan.
Flea looked like he was having a great time.
Uh-huh.
Know it's been a long time since he's done the.
He was an
Sorry, you know what? That might not even be posted. That was. I just did a really horrible Flea impersonation. Sorry about that.
No one's Flea. No, I thought it was good. I thought it was short.
It was very short.
Very long, but I thought I really like Bruno Mars. Always have.
And I'm glad they started or they ended how they ended with his very iconic song.
Just the Way You Are.
Yeah,
it's a great song. No, I thought he did a great job hosting SNL when he did that, and after that I knew how good of a performer he was. I always just liked his music. He's a performer, and I think he proved it last night.
I mean, I'm a fan of the Lazy song, so I mean, and the video of that, so it's pretty cool.
He's an entertainer.
And to tie the ribbon into a very tight bow. You know who I realized the other day or yesterday who Bruno Mars looks like?
Russell Wilson.
No.
Okay, who?
Teddy Bruschi.
Yep.
And I just thought that was the most hilarious thing.
Give Teddy Bruschi a little afro.
I was gonna say, give Teddy Bruschi the little hair that goes out like that.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a Hulk-sized version of Bruno Mars.
I see it. I definitely see it.
And well, with that, we're gonna take a break because what else can we do after that conversation?
Yeah.
On the other side of this break, we're gonna come back and talk a little basketball.
Best game of the weekend.
Yeah, we got some things to say about that. In case you're wondering, it's a little ACC action. But anyway, you're in the basement with Sean and the Heckler, and we'll see you on the other side of this break. Bye.
All right, good. How long did we just talk about the Super Bowl for? 37.
37 minutes.
Jesus. All right, we'll do a little Duke Syracuse. You can lead in.
Oh, for sure. And
like about the.
I talked to Mick.
Yeah.
And he's willing to do little bumpers for us for our breaks.
That would be cool.
Like things like, hey, this is Nick Mucus, and you're listening to just crazy shit that Mick does.
Just Nick being Nick.
Yeah. And then I know the owner for Open Rice Kitchen in Davis, and I was like, hey, I can't pay you or anything, but would you mind maybe free advertising for you?
Yeah.
If you run a couple of breaks for me if we
Who
can.
says no to that?
And he was like, yeah, dude, whenever I have time. So I got some things in the works.
I like
things
it.
in the works.
I like it a lot.
I also have my buddy trying him and my other buddy they jam a lot. And I was like, dude, can you just record maybe a
yeah, dude.
As long as you jam, just record it, and I might be able to use a snippet, if not the whole thing in the background,
doing things. DK doing things.
Doing things.
All right.
And it's recorded here, so I gotta do things.
Syracuse Duke. Let's do it.
Behind the scenes.
All right, so you listen to Syracuse Duke,
okay.
and then I'll come in. I'll wrap it up, and I'll transition into the things I want to say about the NBA, and then you play along, however long you want to talk, whatever you want to say about the NBA. But I have some thoughts that I want to get.
Oh, that says 10 days till spring training. You know what? I need to get better at this.
No, I like it.
Backwards. 10 days till spring training.
We're talking baseball next week too.
Hey, we are back from our break. Hopefully you got a sandwich or maybe a nice cup of water or soda pop. Maybe an adult beverage. Who knows? Maybe we're going to sound funnier after this break because you've had an adult beverage or two.
Hopefully.
Anyway, like I teased before the break, we're going to talk a little Duke basketball here. Duke. They played the number 2 team in the country at the time, the Syracuse Orangemen, who were undefeated, and they gave them quite a game. I was working for most of the game, so I couldn't watch the full game with my full attention. But from what I saw before they went to overtime, they were up by 6 or so, and I believe they blew the lead down the stretch. Syracuse came back. Duke made a 3 at the end of regulation to force overtime. And then in the overtime, there was a lot of back and forth. Syracuse missed a free throw. Duke came down with a chance to tie. And there was a no call on a block on the dunk near the end. And they ended up losing by 2 in overtime with like 89-87. I feel like it showed a lot of things for both squads. It showed that Syracuse can win a tight, close game at home against a top caliber team like Duke. But it also showed that Duke's not that far away from where Syracuse is. They're not there yet, but they're not that far away. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the actual game?
I thought it was the best college basketball I've seen in a very long time.
Yes.
2 legendary coaches.
Yes.
2 of the winningest coaches in.
Coach K was trying to tie the all-time wins or something, right? Yes, that day.
There was something going on. I don't know.
Yeah.
They got so many wins. It's hard to keep track now.
970 something.
No, I thought it was an excellent game. I thought the venue was awesome. Attendance record for an on-campus college basketball game.
Really?
Syracuse really blew it out.
Oh, well, good for Syracuse students. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was a fun game to watch. I mean, the first ACC matchup of these two. You and I are both ACC fans. I grew up in the heart of ACC country in Greensboro. It's great for the ACC that Syracuse has joined the ACC. It's great that Notre Dame's in. It's great that Pitt's in. It's great that Louisville's coming next year.
And speaking of Notre Dame, they got a dramatic win.
Yeah, Eric.
Saturday as well, game-winning 3.
Yeah, no, it's looking good for the ACC. That was my main takeaway from the game, is that ACC's doing big things now. But the game itself, I sat down, I watched it in its entirety. My parents are both big Duke fans, so I sat down and watched it with them. I had a lot of fun watching that game. I was tense. Star of the game for me, not on Syracuse, on Duke, was Emil Jefferson. Best game I've seen him play.
I heard that. I didn't get to see his efforts very much, but I heard after the game and read some places on ESPN.com and whatnot that he definitely came with it that game.
Yeah, well, I'm a reliable source. I watched it too, and he was amazing. His offensive rebounds were excellent. He had some putbacks.
Duke's been waiting for that.
Yeah, they've
been waiting for that.
An inside guy. Emil Jefferson really emerged in that game for me. A lot of rebounds over a pretty stout Syracuse back line of that zone. A couple offensive rebounds. He played really well. Jabari had a couple of moments. He was kind of the baseline man in that zone, kind of roaming both sides. And when Duke got a little bit of penetration, which didn't happen much, they would dish it to Jabari. And he's adept at finishing with his left hand or his right hand or both hands, going up strong to the hoop, which I think is a really strong asset for Jabari to have. I thought Rodney Hood played really well in spurts. Rashid Suleiman, he had a breakout game, even though he had a breakout year last year. He hasn't done much this year. His three-pointer at the end of regulation was terrific. I was worried that he was the one shooting, but he did a really good job. The one guy I was extremely disappointed in, and it's not like he even played that poorly, was Quinn Cook. I think if Quinn Cook could have gotten going, he missed a lot of open threes.
Oh, did he?
He's usually a knockdown guy. If he would have made a couple of shots, we win that game by 6 or 7. I thought he had a rough night, and he knew it. His body language kind of told you he didn't play well. But Tyler Thornton with 3 humongous three-pointers. It reminded me of the Maui Invitational a couple years ago, playing against Kansas and Thomas Robinson. It was a great performance by Duke. They really got hampered by fouls.
Okay.
I tweeted this during the game that it's a shame this game kind of came down to foul trouble, and it wasn't even that the refs had a bad game. It was just Duke got into foul trouble. Syracuse put them in those situations. And
that's what top teams in the country do.
That's what they do. They put you in bad situations, and I think Duke's a top 10 team right now. They're ranked 11. I'm okay with that ranking, but they're up there. They could very easily be a number 2 seed or a number 3 seed. But this comes down to Syracuse and how great they are. C.J. Fair has been one of my favorite players for a while. I'm a Duke fan without a doubt, but over the years, my second favorite team has been Syracuse. I really appreciate Jim Boeheim. I'm happy to have him in the ACC. It's tough for me when Duke and Syracuse go up against each other. But CJ Fair is a beast. He'll be a solid pro.
Wow. I am looking at top 25 right now. Go ahead. Keep
Tyler
going.
Ennis, great freshman point guard. Didn't even play like a freshman. He played like a savvy vet, like an NBA pro. Tyler Ennis is going to have a very good future, whether it be college or in the NBA. I was impressed. I was impressed with Syracuse. I was impressed with Duke, too. It was an epic basketball game. I mean, even Boeheim's comments after the game, he said, this is the best game we've ever been a part of at the Carrier Dome, and that's saying something with all the Georgetown
that is saying
matchups
something.
and Villanova and all those guys. No, it was an excellent game. It was sad to see Duke lose, but it was the best loss I think they've ever had. It was a great game. Foul trouble really hampered them. You said it, Rodney Hood had a play, I think it was in overtime, where he went up and tried to dunk over a couple guys. It looked like he got hit on the arm.
And the thing is, he did kind of get hit on the arm in the secondary part of it.
Yeah.
But the initial contact was a clean block.
Yeah, I thought so.
And the contact on the arm, I think, was more... It was like it wasn't a forced contact. It was like, they mutually kind of met kind of thing. You know what I mean? I thought it was a good no call. Yeah. For what kind of game that they played between the two teams, it was a great no call, and the ref swallowing his whistle. I only wonder if the score was reversed and the roles were reversed and it was Syracuse going for that dunk, would the refs would have still swallowed the whistle? Because the Carrier Dome was rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll never know, but,
My takeaway from the play was that Duke doesn't really have, in its history, a guy that does that in a big moment. They usually look for contact, look for the foul.
Yeah.
They don't have guys who are going to try and dunk over you. I thought that was Mississippi State Rodney Hood and not Duke Rodney Hood. I was a little disappointed in him that he would go for something that spectacular in that moment, because he really could have just extended his arm and tried to lay it off the glass, and he would have gotten fouled in that instance. I was a little disappointed. By the law, it was a foul. I'm kind of glad it wasn't called. It was a ticky-tack call if they were going to call it, but... You know what? I thought it was an excellent game. I'm okay with Duke losing that game.
Yeah.
They'll be fine in the ACC come to play. Syracuse, they're the number one team in the nation. I don't know if they're the absolute best team in the nation. I think.
Yeah, I was going to say in the AP, the updated top 25 as of today, the unanimous voting for the AP is all 65. Syracuse number 1, Arizona drops only to number 2.
Shocking.
Florida 3, Wichita State at 4, San Diego State at 5, Villanova 6, Cincinnati 7, Kansas back in the top 10 at 8, or I guess they've been there for a while, Michigan State at 9, Michigan at 10, who suffered their first Big Ten loss of the year this weekend, Duke up to 11, Creighton at 12, St. Louis at 13, Louisville at 14, Texas at 15, Iowa State 16, Iowa right there below them at 17, Kentucky the Wildcats at 18, Oklahoma State at 19, Virginia 20, Oklahoma 21, Connecticut 22, Gonzaga at 23, Memphis, the Fighting Trevor Koosses at 24, our former sports director Trevor Koos at KDVS Sports here. Number 25 is Pittsburgh. So we see a lot of ACC and Big Ten schools on the list, and a lot of schools like Wichita State, San Diego State, Creighton, St. Louis. You know what? I'm throwing Gonzaga back into that ilk. They've lost their privilege of being one of the big boys after last year's tournament. In my book, I don't know about anybody else's. But after they were the biggest fake number 1 ever. They just, in my book, they just lost that privilege. They're back to being mid-major darlings, I think, and not even darlings, because I feel like they've been so overexposed now that it's like people find glee in Gonzaga losing almost.
And that's kind of true.
It's weird. It's weird.
My big takeaways from the top 25. I'm shocked Arizona only dropped to number 2, but that will change.
I thought they would go down to 4 at least.
Brandon Ashley, their third leading scorer and one of their best swingmen, is out for the season. He just suffered an injury against Cal in that loss, so Arizona's in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, and good. You know what? Good win for Cal, though. I mean, on top of I can't believe they dropped to 2. Good win on Cal.
Yeah, it was a good shot there at the end for Cal. It was a good win. Wichita State and San Diego State, I can't really tell if they're the real deal. Come playoff or
let me ask you something.
It'll be different.
I just read the AP top 25, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think it means something that the coaches poll has Wichita State at 2?
No. States.
Or is that
2
just,
or 4.
or is that just college coaches right now kind of giving Wichita State respect?
Yeah, honestly, I can't tell you. I've watched Wichita State play a couple times.
And they're not the number 2 team in the country.
I don't like their competition. I don't like who they're playing
They
against.
barely put away Evansville. Or
Yeah,
whatever
for
that
me
was.
to tell how good they are, I don't like who they're playing against. They're a good team. I can tell you that much. I don't think Florida's as good as they're ranked. Honestly, if Syracuse isn't the best team in the nation, then I think a healthy Michigan State is. And Michigan State's number 9 right now.
Fair
They've got
enough.
some tough losses. But if they get Adrian Payne back and the way Gary Harris is playing, I think Michigan State's really good.
Yeah,
like I said, I think Duke's a top 10 team.
I trust the AP top 25, way more than the USA Today coaches poll.
Yeah, and it's different.
Because
different voters, different eyes.
you know what? I feel
perspectives.
like because this is almost the best example of this poll of why I trust the AP and no longer the USA Today. Number 24 and 25 in the top 25 AP is Memphis and Pittsburgh, respectively. In the coaches poll, it's Wisconsin and Ohio State. And no offense to Wisconsin and Ohio State. You guys are good teams. You guys are probably making some noise in the tournament. You guys always do. But you guys deserve to be out of the top 25. Like, you aren't playing like a top 25 team. And Memphis and Pittsburgh are, basically. And UConn. They just are. And they're playing better than Ohio State and Wisconsin are because they just are. I don't know. It's the eye test,
Yeah, and Wisconsin's kind of a funny case. I mean, you brought them up earlier in our NFL discussion of teams you don't want to watch. Wisconsin's a good team.
No, they are.
They know who
just,
they are.
They're just right now. They're not a top 25 team.
Yeah, and I agree.
And they are definitely a 26 or 27 in that others receiving votes kind of category.
Yeah, and I think come Big Ten playoff time that they'll be right in there, and they'll give Ohio State a test. They'll give Michigan State a test. They'll give Michigan a test.
Oh yeah,
And
for sure.
They're that kind of team. They'll give Iowa a test. Iowa's pretty good. There are some good teams in college basketball this year, and I said before the year this is probably going to be the year that all the number 1 seeds are chalk in the NCAA.
So second time ever.
Yeah, and I still believe that's going to happen, but this is the weird part of me saying that. I don't know who the number 1 seeds are right now. I don't know who they're going to be, but come March, I think whoever gets those number 1 seeds will have proved it, will have the correct records, and I think they'll be solid number 1 teams.
Can Syracuse go undefeated?
Yes, but it will be very tough because the ACC is it's not easy.
No, for sure.
It's
'Cause, you can run the table in the regular season, and then end up losing to like the last qualifying team in the tournament because they just got hot.
Yeah,
and that's conference tournament play.
And the only reason I say yes because they can rely so heavily on that zone and
Yeah.
get away with it in the
Matchup
ACC, 'cause
zone.
There really isn't another ACC team that plays a zone like that, and this is their first year in it, and they know exactly how to run it, and it's going to be tough for teams like Carolina to run against that zone. They still have to play Duke again. They still have to go to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's not a pushover team.
Yep.
They could run the table. I don't know if they will. I don't think they will. I have more faith in the ACC than that. But I think Syracuse has pretty much locked up a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. That's how good they are. I think they're the only lock right now. Like I said, I don't think Florida's that good.
And no offense to the Shocker fans out there, Wichita State, but you guys aren't going to go undefeated. You'd have to win the tournament to undefeated. And you know what? I don't. This leads me to our next question. If the Wichita State Shockers finish the regular season and in their tournament undefeated, right? Do you give them a number 1 or 2 seed?
You give them a number 1 seed like St. Joe's, and believe me, Wichita State's going undefeated.
So
they don't have competition.
So then what you're saying is we do know at least one number 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
So based on what you said previous, you think Wichita State is good enough as number 1 seed to make it to the Final Four?
They're a tournament team. They're built to come out and play every night. Cleanthony Early, Van Vliet.
Well,
they're good.
I'm going to play devil's advocate to my own question here.
Yeah.
Because of Gonzaga last year, do you think the tournament committee gives them a poo-poo and makes them the best number 2 seed?
Nope, I don't think they can.
On the worst number 4 line, so they're almost like de facto number 1, but they just couldn't get seeding.
Oh,
I mean,
okay, well, yeah, I mean,
like you know what I mean? They're the top ranked number 2 team, which would be in the bracket with the lowest number 1 seed. You know what I mean? So technically, they wouldn't get punished, but they would.
if they're undefeated, they're a number 1 seed. The tournament committee can't do that. And we're going to talk about that closer to March, but, I mean, if they go undefeated, win their tournament...
We've seen weirder things.
We have, but I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, Wichita State, weren't they Final Four team last year?
No, they lost Elite 8.
Elite 8, okay,
yeah.
Close enough. They're a good team. Committee recognizes that, and if they go undefeated, which I believe they will, because they don't have very much competition where they play, yeah, they're number 1 seed. And if they're a number 1 seed, they're gonna do just fine. They're built for the tournament.
Okay,
I'm a believer.
I believe too. I think they should be number 1 seed if they go undefeated.
It's just tough to tell how good they are because of the competition they play against.
I'm just worried because I look at this top 25 on both sides, and the teams that would most likely be in conversation for number 1 seeds, other than Syracuse right now, and Arizona and Wichita State, are probably Florida. And at the end of the day, maybe Michigan State, and depending on what Duke does in the ACC tournament, maybe Duke, maybe Kansas. But they all have 5 and 3 and 2 losses. So what I'm getting at is, if say Florida makes an impressive run in the SEC tournament and only has 2 losses, does a 2-loss Florida school incur more favor from the tournament committee than an undefeated Wichita State against, as you said, inferior competition, so you don't know how good they really are?
Well, it depends on where the rest of the top 5 is. I mean, I'd like to see what Arizona would do in the Pac-12. I think they're going to have some problems in the Pac-12 tournament. Yeah, I don't know. I think Villanova could jump up if they have a big performance in the AAC.
In my conspiracy world, let's say Villanova ends with 2 losses. Right, and then they win the AAC tournament. Mm-hmm. Florida State ends with 2 losses, wins the SEC tournament.
Florida State?
Florida. Wins the SEC and then runs the tournament, ends with 2 losses.
Yeah.
Arizona runs out, say 2 losses at the most. They lose 1 more regular season game and they win the tournament. Syracuse, we'll say they lose 1 game to no games. They run through the ACC tournament and win. So you got 1, 2, 3. And Wichita State's out there, Villanova. So within those 5 teams then, because Wichita State's undefeated, do you just say, impressive run Villanova, but you're not really the Big East anymore, not as impressive, number 1 seed? Can you do that?
I think we'll cross that bridge when we get there, because I honestly, it's too early to tell right now who's in the
Okay, no, you know me, I like to.
But no,
I talk about that.
Following your logic, I'm sure Villanova will be that team that gets left out, because.
I would agree with that.
I think the voters will see the SEC for what it is and see Florida.
To everyone out there in podcast land who might be confused as to what I'm talking about, I agree with Sean on what he's saying. If Wichita State runs it through, and before March Madness, they deserve to be number 1 seed. I'm just playing as we all know that devil's advocate. We've seen it before, where the little guy gets screwed out somehow by the big bad conferences. So. It is what it is. I hope it doesn't happen, but there's always a chance it's going to.
Yeah, and we'll be talking a lot of college basketball over the next few weeks. But no, I following your logic, I think you're right. I think if Villanova were to do all of that and keep winning, I think if Wichita State was undefeated, I think the voting committee would favor Wichita State over Villanova, and I think that's a sign of the times that given last year they gave Gonzaga number 1 seed.
No, yeah, I mean. You can totally tell it is a sign of times because teams like St. Louis and Creighton and Wichita State, San Diego State, they're all in the top 20.
Well, so I'm glad you brought that name up because Creighton, beware.
They're going to be scary.
Beware the Blue Jays come March.
They're a legitimate tournament team because I know McDermott is their star, right?
Yeah.
But you know as well as I do, those other guys around McDermott,
can play.
They are good.
They can ball.
This is not just your typical. It's not your father's Creighton team, basically, where there's one guy, where there's one awesome guy and a bunch of no-name seniors. No.
They're a team.
They are a team. They could make a deep run. That could be I didn't realize they were going to be in the Final Four.
Yeah, and I'll probably rephrase what I said that all the number 1 seeds are going chalk come tournament time, and when I look at the bracket, I'll probably second guess myself, but. As of right now, I think there will be 4 best teams in college basketball.
I'm just hoping that they don't all get BCS'd in which all the small schools get thrown into one bracket so that they just kind of knock each other out, kind of like the BCS, pitting always the two like little schools against each other.
Yeah, it could happen, and come that time of the year, we'll do an NBA draft preview. But I've been singing this guy's praises for 2 years now. Doug McDermott's going to make a hell of a pro.
Oh, yeah.
And if he goes to a solid situation in the NBA, like if his draft stock falls a little bit, he ends up in that mid to late first round. Ooh. Beware. You put him on a playoff team. Ooh.
Oh man, it pains me, but imagine if he signs with the Spurs.
That's a perfect matchup.
Yeah, exactly.
I love
right.
it. And he'd do really well there. No, and we'll do an NBA draft preview because this NBA draft's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's actually a good segment into our last discussion topic here.
Yeah.
The NBA.
And we'll do a more in depth NBA kind of mid-season stuff. Probably next week we'll talk some baseball as well. But I just had some thoughts, just some random thoughts about the NBA so far. And I'll run through maybe 2 or 3 of them. First, I think most importantly,
East is so bad.
East is very bad, and I believe we were recording when we said it for the YouTube thing before the show. It's what Richard Sherman said, that the NFC Championship game was kind of the Super Bowl.
Yeah. As much as I hate Richard Sherman, that kind of made me feel a little less hard of an edge.
A little less hated. I think it's going to be the same thing for the Eastern Conference. I think the Pacers-Miami Heat will be the real NBA Finals, and hopefully one of them can limp out of there and still beat the West. But I think that matchup is the matchup of arguably the two best teams in basketball, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. I'm going to do an entire East preview.
You think those are the two best teams in basketball?
Arguably. I mean, OKC's banged up, San Antonio's banged up, and really, I don't care about anyone else in the West. The Clippers are banged up.
I was going to say, you don't give Portland a chance to make any noise.
In a playoff series against Miami, no.
Yeah, that's
in a playoff
true.
series against Indiana, no.
That's true.
But I'm going to go full in depth on that topic next week, the entire Western Conference. But like you said, the Eastern Conference is so bad. There are so many bad teams in the Eastern Conference. And again, I'll talk about it more next week. But
the Bobcats are an 8 seed
at
21 and 28.
Yep, I actually saw them play earlier this year when they came to Sacramento. I'm kind of impressed with Al Jefferson.
They would be
pretty good player.
They would be a 12th seed in the West.
Yeah, it's shocking to see the comparisons between the East and the West. But I said there were 2 or 3. The first takeaway: the East is really bad, but I believe the 2 best teams in basketball play in the Eastern Conference. So there's one of them. 2. We'll talk about the All-Star game and the selections and the selection process.
Is it time to take the voting away from the fans?
Yep.
Okay.
Is. And it's a shame because I'm actually pretty happy with 9 of the 10 starters.
Yeah, with most of the teams.
And the one starter is very beloved in this basement right now.
Oh yeah, we love him, but
Kobe shouldn't even be in the All-Star game.
He shouldn't even be listed.
Shouldn't be on the
on the ballot. He shouldn't be an option.
And it's a shame because
he shouldn't even be an option.
We're kind of robbed now because now it goes through the process of the commissioner selecting an injury replacement for Kobe because he's not playing.
No, exactly. And you know what?
He kind of said beforehand he was not playing either.
And guys out there, mark your calendars here because you may never, ever, ever, ever hear me do this. If the commissioner really wants to have a lasting impression after he leaves.
Well, he's already gone.
Well, I don't know what I mean. I know, but he should tell the current commissioner,
Adam Silver,
over the little text, buddy text, whatever, DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, I'm not with you on that one.
He's an all-star.
His team is the worst team.
That doesn't matter though. He's an all-star.
He's an all-star caliber player.
So I mean, and he's playing at an all-star caliber level.
You know who else is playing at all-star caliber level?
Who?
Anthony Davis. You know
okay. You can't. Obviously, you can't pick DeMarcus over Anthony Davis.
That's my point.
But I think because of the whole injuries to a lot more people than there really are, even though Chris Paul's going to try to make the All-Star game, whatever, I think the commissioner's going to have at least 2 to 3 of those kind of injury picks.
There's one for sure with Kobe. It depends on Chris Paul if he's going to play, but it could be 2.
And I think they're going to do the whole Chris Paul, you should be at All-Star weekend, but the Clippers really don't want you to hurt yourself anymore.
They could.
Because that's been done before.
Well, my whole thing was just that the process needs to change. Fan voting has gotten out of hand. Kobe he shouldn't have been a part of this voting at all, and it's a damn shame. But I'm happy with the rest of them. I love that Steph Curry got recognition. He absolutely should be starting the All-Star game. I love that Kevin Love got recognition. He should be starting the All-Star game. I love that Paul George is in there. I love that Paul George is starting because the fans recognize greatness. I love that Dwayne Wade's in there because you recognize still how good Dwayne Wade is. Even banged up, he'll have a night where you go, "Oh,
I'm impressed with
Dwayne Wade."
I'm impressed with the Kyrie Irving.
That was my last point. Because I'm glad you said it because you know how much I love Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Steve Nash is my boy. Steve Nash is my boy till the day I die, till the day he stops playing. He's my boy. But Kyrie's getting up there. Kyrie's pretty close. I mean, his crossover, he makes me excited about basketball when he does his crossover. And I wish he had help in Cleveland, but the fact that he doesn't have help and he's starting the All-Star game should tell you something, how good he is.
Yeah.
If he got some help, and I like Luol Deng. Love him. I mean, he's a Dookie. He's a Dookie for life. I love Luol Deng, but that's not enough. That's not enough in that team. And Cleveland's a cancerous situation right now. I'll go into much more about that, but I love that the fans recognize that Kyrie Irving should be starting the All-Star game. I love it.
I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Who is Dirk paying? Who is Dirk paying to get an All-Star reserve spot?
Well, let me ask you.
In the West.
Let me ask you a follow-up question. Have you seen the Dallas Mavericks play this year?
No.
Dirk's playing out of his mind. He's really good. He's really, really good.
Oh,
and
man.
It's more of a lifetime achievement award than we'd like to let on.
Fair enough. No, I get that one. I guess.
But it was kind of how Tim Duncan was an all-star last year. Yeah, he was putting up good numbers, but I mean, it's Tim Duncan. So
yeah.
If you're putting up good numbers, you're automatically considered. That's what happened with Dirk. He's putting up good numbers. His shooting numbers are really good. He's clutch. Still having good moments in the fourth quarter. He's actually rebounding this year. He's getting his assist up because Monte Ellis is helping out and Jose Calderon from three. But Dirk deserves it. Trust me.
Okay.
I've watched him, and like I said, I've said this before. I'm an NBA League Pass guy. I have League Pass. I watch it as much as possible. I got it on my computer. There are days when I have it on my computer and 2 different TVs. I'm sitting in one room watching all 3 games. I watch a lot of this. I'm not upset about Dirk being an all-star. And it's a shame because I could have a life, but I like this life. I like watching basketball. So my second issue was the process. It needs to change. Fan voting needs to be abolished for at least the starters. I think maybe they could do vote for 3 guys who should be reserved, maybe something like that.
I have a bigger question than even that.
Yeah, what is it?
Why was Kobe even on the ballot?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're the NBA, right? Like the entity that is the NBA, you have to know that Kobe Bryant, whether he's healthy or not, is one of the most popular players in the NBA, according to fans. Globally, exactly.
This vote isn't just in America.
So he doesn't have to even be the top vote getter. As long as you're the top, guard, top 2, I don't know. I think that was just bad form by the NBA anyway. And then the fans went ridiculous and basically said, "Oh, I recognize that name. Let's do it."
Yeah, and I think in Kobe's place, if the fans got it right, I thought James Harden should have started the All-Star game. Luckily enough, he was voted in as a reserve. But I thought the Kobe thing was ridiculous, and you know how much we love Kobe. I mean, we're huge Kobe fans, but he shouldn't even sniff the All-Star game. And he already said he's not playing. I mean, he's hurt. He's not gonna rush back and play in an All-Star game, even though he's one of the most competitive people in All-Star games. He's not gonna rush back. So that was my second point. The process needs to change. The third point, how the hell is Lance Stevenson not an All-Star? How the hell is Lance Stevenson not an All-Star? The Eastern Conference is so bad. It's so bad.
Well, but he's a guard, right?
He's a guard. There's 2 teams in the Eastern Conference that matter at all.
Let's see, because...
You took 3 from Miami. They took 3 from Miami. LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh. They're all All-Stars. They took 2 from Indiana, Paul George and Roy Hibbert. You know who the number 1 seed in the East is right now? It's Indiana.
Yep. And
you take 3 players from Indiana.
What they should have done is, instead of picking Joe Johnson, they should have put in Lance Stevenson.
Yep. And I love Joe Johnson.
And I was gonna say a choice between Joe Johnson and DeMar DeRozan, but I stopped
DeRozan deserves
Because I was going to say, DeRozan deserves to be there.
A Raptor deserved to be there because of just the way they've been playing, and I think DeRozan was the right choice.
And Paul Millsap's lucky that the Hawks are in third.
Yeah, he is. But, I mean, if you watch any of the Hawks, him and Jeff Teague have been all-star caliber players.
Fair enough.
I would say Joe Johnson's the one guy who should get left off, especially when you look at it like this. Joe Johnson's been to 6 All-Star games. I mean, I know you can't really look at it like that, but if we're going to call Dirk
exactly, I was going to say, if you're going to say Dirk's on it for pretty much lifetime achievement,
have to look at it like that. Joe Johnson, he's having a good year, not
an all-star year,
not one of his best years in his career. And you look at Lance Stevenson, who you talk to any NBA GM out there right now, they want Lance Stevenson on their team. He's an all-star guy. He leads the NBA in triple doubles. He's playing on the best team in the East.
He's under Joe Johnson is under his career average in all across the board.
He's had a good year, but not a great year. And you look at the tumult that's been the Brooklyn Nets season.